This is going to be a short video on the chain rule for differentiation, and the main purpose of using the chain rule is when you have what they call in mathematics a composite function, or two functions, one inside the other one, and oftentimes you want to ask yourself what's the inner function and what's the outer function. So I have three examples here. In this first one, A says the sine of x cubed. Now in this case, the sine is your outer function and x cubed is your inner function. So what you want to do when you take the derivative using the chain rule is we take the derivative of the outer function first, so the derivative of sine is cosine, and we'll leave what's in the parentheses alone. So it becomes cosine of x cubed, and then we take the derivative of the inner function and multiply it. So we have x cubed, derivative of x cubed is 3x squared. And I like to usually move the algebraic terms in front before the trig function. So we'll say our final answer here is 3x squared cosine x cubed. And that's A, it's done. Chain rule's relatively simple there. So we move on to B, and we have cosine of e to the x here. Now our outer function is cosine, right? Cosine of something, that's our outer function. The inner function is e to the x. So we take the derivative of the outer function first, which is cosine. Derivative of cosine is negative sine of something, negative sine of our inner function, which is e to the x. And then we're going to multiply by the derivative of our inner function. Derivative of e to the x is just e to the x again. And then I like to move our that term to the front there. So we'll say this is negative e to the x sine e to the x. That's our final answer for B. And then chain rule we can also use for things that don't involve trig functions. So in this case, our outer function is going to be something, which is our inner function, to the 8th power. So we have something to the 8th power. In this case, it's 4 plus 2x. So when if you were going to take the derivative of x to the 8th, you would just simply say, well, the derivative of x to the 8th is 8x to the 7th, right? So, but we don't have x here. We have some little bit more confusing of a function on the inside. But it's the same concept. So we pull the 8 down, and we'll say 8 times our inner function, 4 plus 2x to the 7th, and then we just want to multiply by the derivative of our inner function, which in this case is 4 plus 2x, and the derivative of that is just 2. So our final answer is 16, 2 times 8 is 16, 4 plus 2x to the 7th. And that's our final answer there. So that's a few examples on the chain rule, and the main idea here is just to find our outer function and our inner function, take the derivative of the outer function, leave the inner function alone, and then multiply by the derivative of the inner function.